Hi everyone, welcome to Domain Sherpa. We've got a terrific Domain Sherpa review for everybody today here live on location at Universal Studios. We've got Ammar and Josh on the show, and we've also got Andrew Miller on the show to talk about the recent sale of Universal.com to Universal. We'll also play the domain game with a few domains the Sherpas recently bought and sold, and we'll talk about a bunch of names coming up for auction on NameJet. All that's coming up right now here on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains, so let's go. What's up, Sherpa Network? Thank you for tuning in today. My name is Jonathan Tenenbaum, aka JT, aka J On, and I am the host and producer of Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Today's show is a Domain Sherpa review where we get into the minds of successful domain investors using real examples so we can learn strategies and tactics to become more successful domain name investors ourselves. These are the experts. There are now 4 segments to a Domain Sherpa review as to what used to be 3 based on the way the shows have been going lately. So segment 1 is grand opening. And that's where I'll intro the Sherpas. We'll see what's going on with them. And we usually talk about some related items. Then we've got segment 2, which is the domain game, where we'll hear about domains the Sherpas recently bought or sold. Everybody guesses on the buy or sell price. We keep score, and the winner will eventually get some media options or domain Sherpa swag. Section 3 or segment 3 is NameJet Gonna Jet, where we review a list of domains coming up for auction on NameJet. I'm not wearing the shirt today because I'm actually on the road and traveling, but we'll get to that. And then segment 4 is grand closing, and that's where we'll discuss anything we haven't covered already with what's going on in the domain space, looking at the market trends, current events, allowing our guests to promote or talk about anything that we haven't already discussed. So we just released a Domain Sherpa review actually today, so we're going back to back as we had a little bit of a gap with the summer and some scheduling and stuff. And we also have a rabbit hole episode next week, which will be focused and dedicated to NFTs, which is going to be pretty cool. And I want to say thank you to everybody who watched the last episode where I interviewed Chris Jenkins, the Villanova basketball legend. Feedback from that show was awesome, and there's definitely more where that came from. By the way, I love all the backgrounds and whatnot that Josh is working with right now. That's little production in real time, and so it's all good. So anyway, so with that, let's go ahead and introduce the Sherpas. So to my right, we got my boy Josh Reason, aka Bjorn Borg, aka Harry Kane, host of the Digital Fortune podcast here on the Domain Sherpa Network. Also a successful domain investor, also involved in NFTs, Bored Apes, Meebits, Zed horses, all that good stuff. Josh, I am sorry about what happened in the Euro final. I know we were just talking about that offline. That was pretty brutal, man. And I think a lot of us, look, big shout out to Italy. That was incredible for them. But I think a lot of us were pulling for the UK, especially because, you're my boy, and I got a lot of friends who are from the UK and who I know, man. I'm sorry not to bring that up, but we were just talking about it.
It's all good. It's all good. What a lot of people don't understand is they get quite annoyed with English fans because the whole it's coming home stuff and all that kind of thing. And our fans, to be honest, can be a little bit obnoxious. But what a lot of people don't understand is that in England, football is everything, and we haven't won anything for a really, really, really long time. So it's one of those things where there's a lot of raw passion that goes into our football.
Of course. Might be time to find a new thing though, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
We're still pretty good. We're still number 2 in Europe.
Oh, hey, man. And look, that was an amazing ride, and to get there, and then that game itself was a great game. I mean, it was it went to the end, obviously, PKs and some questionable calls. You know what I mean? I don't think you can fault the players taking the kicks, but I think you can definitely question the decisions that put him in that position. Those were big moments, and I don't know that those guys were, young kids that I don't know that they should have been there. But in that particular spot with everything that was on the line, and that was rough.
So, yeah, it was tough. It was tough.
But with that, we're gonna have some fun today, though. We're gonna talk about more uplifting, exciting, positive stuff here on the show. So thank you for being here, my dude, as always. And then all right, and then below me we got my boy Ammar Kubba, aka King Kubba, aka Danny Ocean, aka Afterthought Fitzgerald, kind of like F. Scott Fitzgerald. You know what I'm saying on that writing tip. So for those of you who don't know, Ammar is a successful domain investor, entrepreneur. He's also got his blog going now at afterthought.com. doing the writing thing, which is great. And and then he's a regular here on the show with us. So Ammar, what's going on, man? How you living?
Hey, great to be here. I like it. King Kuba. I like that
King
one.
Kubba, man. Are you currently in Vegas right now? Are you guys on the road? Where are you at?
We're in Vegas. We just hit a all-time record high, 117 on Saturday.
Whew, man.
Yeah.
That is. We've got some crazy heat waves happening this summer, man.
Yeah,
And,
well, 117, and then last night it was crazy thunderstorms.
yeah.
So it's just like weird earthquake weather or something.
Yeah.
Welcome to every day in July in Boston right now. Routine.
Well, I'll tell you, it's we were just talking about that offline as well. Like, in our neighborhood where Josh and I live, we've had crazy thunderstorms. Our supermarket, like the Publix, got struck by lightning yesterday, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
And one of the houses on Josh's street behind him, now this wasn't this year, this was last year, it got hit by lightning and burned down. So he's like really in the zone. He's in the window. But 117 in Vegas, man, that's dry heat. That's no big deal, man. Like everybody says.
No,
It's
it's not terrible. I actually, it's not the worst. Definitely, it's not so bad.
Well, so now for me, I'm not home right now. I'm actually on the road. I'm here on location at Universal Studios, which is a good segue into our final guest, my boy Andrew Miller. So I'm here at Universal Studios, as everybody will see in the drop that we do at the intro, because I did that in front of the big Universal Globe. So while I was here, definitely wanted to do the show. Appreciate you guys taking the time to jump on, and especially appreciate Miller taking the time, because he just recently brokered the sale of Universal.com to Universal. So it just ties in super well to be able to do that here. And so with the intro, so it is crazy hot here, though. I will say, so I'm gonna introduce Miller, and then I'm gonna go on a little bit of a rant about summer heat at theme parks in July. But all right, so for those of you who don't know, and Miller's on the show as much as anybody now, but AKA Andrew Miller, AKA Sam Ace Rothstein, AKA Bill Belichick, as you can see with the big old Patriots thing behind him, investor, entrepreneur, advisor, some of the biggest domain sales, not just historically. You got some great stuff, on your resume, but man, recently you've been killing it. You got candy.com, you got home.com, you got universal.com. I know you got another one. I don't know if you can disclose it, but so for those of you who don't know, Miller is as successful in the domain space as anybody, and man, always a pleasure to have you on. And so yeah, can you tell the audience about the most recent one, or we got to table that for a little while?
No, we can definitely do that. I just lost one AirPod, so hopefully that won't affect us. First of all, I was going to say, Josh, you do have a recoup here coming up. I watched the soccer game with the football game with as I said before, off air, with my friend from the UK here who played very competitive soccer over there, and his whole family's there. And it was kind of disappointing, but I'm a ranked DraftKings player, as some of you guys may know, and actually excited to do a DraftKings How to Win in Daily Fantasy Sports Names Con panel with my boy Roman Edmond coming up in September. But you got I'm spending most of my day today getting ready for the British Open, Josh. So it's a big weekend ahead for us daily fantasy guys on the major coming up, with chances to win $1 million and $250,000 and things like that. So you have something to move on to, and you very well may come out of it with a British Open champion. So,
yeah. I need to get into DraftKings. I'm like all into Zed Run right now and that kind of thing. But DraftKings is right up my alley.
Yeah, well, Zed Run, for folks who don't know, Zed Run is the horses, right? So it's the NFT horse racing, and it's pretty wild. I know Josh is like, I've been hitting him up occasionally, like, yo, you gotta give me some info on this. I need to know how to get in. You could breed. Could you breed the horses now? I know that's like, is that?
Dude, I've got like 20 horses now. I'm like real deep.
Yeah,
love it.
Well, let's say for the NFT thing. The DraftKings stuff I think is awesome. Now that so I mentioned it earlier, we kind of got the Sherpa sports thing. We're going to start doing some sports shows occasionally. So we'll do a DraftKings. We'll definitely do a DraftKings episode at some point. We've got some pretty cool things on tap. We'll talk about that too. And
that would be fun.
We've also got some other interesting sort of content stuff happening here on DomainSherpa, where we're expanding into along the lines of the domains, but we've got an off the market forever show that we're going to be coming out with that's going to focus on the end user side, the branding a bit, and things like that, because we're always banging that drum, and Miller, you do a really good job of this too, which is, really pushing the whole idea of, these companies that are spending millions of dollars in marketing, or, one company buying another company, and then, coming up cheap on the domain name, is missing out on literally the most important asset of their digital landscape. And, so honestly, for as much as these names are selling for, they're still selling cheap, because the value that they bring is, is still so worth so much more. But so the show will focus more on that, like the big sales and sort of the stories behind those and where they're going and all that good stuff. So, but there'll be more to follow. I'm just teasing.
And I ducked your question, by the way, about the deal yesterday. So I didn't mean to. No. I can come back to that. I apologize. By the way, where's my AKA Nicolas Cage?
Oh, why Nicolas Cage?
I get it all. I don't know. I get it all the time. I've been asked for my autograph like 100,000 times. Anyway,
it's the, if you had the hair, I could see it in the face, but the hair is like, all right, but I'll add it.
Throwing you off, huh?
So yesterday, I think James Isles kind of came out with this, but completed the sale of walk.com, WALK, walk. And that was I'm very, very protective of my buyers and sellers and prices. And I prefer domain name sales to be confidential, not released. So you very rarely will see me talk about price, but this was a 7-figure sale that I figured I wanted to throw James a bone and give him a great story. And so it was this is a 7-figure sale to I think an end user. It was a complex deal, and I worked actually for the first time with Epic Escrow and Mei Chen there, and there were some complications. There were some things to make it not so easy, and they were actually really incredible facilitating it. So I was happy to say that. Okay. And cool. It was exciting deal coming out of a week where sold a couple other big names. Bought lettuce.com from Drew, as you know, and for a company I advise, and had another big domain sale that I don't know if I'm allowed to say anything about it or not, so I'm not going to. But I think it's out there in some places, and if not, we'll see soon. And it was I was excited about Walk. I thought it was a great outcome for both sides, honestly, and loved the domain. I think it was priced right for the buyer, priced right for the seller, and as I said in my post on LinkedIn or in James's story, the best deal is when it's great for both, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, and I think when you can have a win-win, that's awesome. So, and then, so speaking about win-wins, so you had the universal.com sale. I know this one's already gotten a little bit of publicity and kind of been talked about, so we don't want to have to dwell on it. But again,
you're there.
It's a great time. I'm right here. I'm at Portofino Bay. I'm at the hotel. I got the upgrade and everything. So although they still have I guess I got the downgraded curtains because I've got the zebra curtains, but it's and I can't do the view because the sun will mess up my lighting. But anyway, so talk to us about that. Andy sold it. It went to the ultimate end user, right? So it goes to Universal Studios, parent company or whatever, the actual corporate entity that purchased it. But it ends up with Universal. This is one of those examples of a domain that even as Andy bought it, it's like, there's really one key. Multiple maybe people who could have used it, but it went to the best one at the end of the day, right? So now it's off the market forever. No one will ever. It's never going to shake loose from where it is. And this is so it is literally the example of a domain name, going through its sort of history and progression until it ends up with the perfect best case end user. So, congratulations and great work on that.
Yeah, look, there were, just so we're, there's a kind of a lay of the land. There's several real universals.
Sure.
New York, there's a New York Stock Exchange traded company under that name. There's a massive multi-billion conglomerate that has it in its exact match name. There's obviously Universal Music Group, which is not related to Universal Studios and NBC. So that there were a lot of companies that in theory could lay a stake in the claim, stake in the ground for that exact match. And maybe one of the cases, possibly, I don't know, similarly sized, if not bigger than Universal Studios. I could say that having grown up, taking my kids there, and as I said to JT, started my first trip to Universal, 8 a.m. in line, VIP, whatever passes you get at the hotel, and got on the Harry Potter ride, and I sat on a bench for the next 9 hours with my head between my legs. So trying to recover.
Yeah.
But look, it ended up in the place that it should end up from, and it's a place I know Andy and I both were ecstatic to have it end up with, everybody's favorite theme park,
Sure.
right? Or one of the
At
two
least
most
top two.
famous.
Yeah,
top two.
It's all good.
It was, I was impressed with the ability for NBC Universal to make their decision, the way they did it, and get to the right price point and navigate the waters and not screw it up, right? I mean, because we see it get screwed up as many times as it goes right.
Well, especially when you've got these big companies and, and they're segmented a little bit and they're in multiple verticals and all that kind of stuff. And, you've got a chief marketing officer with, however their actual like structure is established, you know what I mean? It's sometimes hard to get the right decision makers to be able to see it and make the call because, they are so sort of fractured, and for them to recognize the value, get to the number, cut the check, like you said. I mean, credit to them for doing that. It was the call they needed to make. And when I'm sitting there paying, $10 for a soda, they can afford the domain name. You know what I mean? And,
no question.
Sometimes it just takes one guy with an ego in the executive team to shut it all down.
Look, I think it helped. I mean, I went in there with a pretty good relationship already with the right people, and pre-existing relationship. So it helped that obviously to have that. And but look, in my opinion, they had to have it, and they do, and they made the right step. Now I'll be excited to see how they use it. So
100%. Yep. No, I'm totally with you. And I think it's a fair point too, that there are some other companies out there that, that it's not like, okay, there was only one company who could buy it and use it. You know what I mean? And if it ended up honestly with any one of them, it'd be off the market forever. Right. I mean, that's
no question.
Like, so it's
it's also a killer brand, right? I mean, for someone as an upstart, a crypto, I mean, I don't know, it's a great brand. So I mean,
well, 100%. And I mean, it's a great word, so at the end of the day, like, even when I was doing the intro, I did a couple of versions. The one that I didn't go with was where I was like, DomainSherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Or you could say domains are universal and point to the globe, and then I'm like, but I was getting laughed at by people walking by who didn't even know it. Like, all right, I can't do that. But but no, fantastic term. I mean, it's as good as it is. It's one of those things. It's an incredible, world-class name, and now off the market forever. And again, back to the point that you've got several huge companies, conglomerates, whatever, publicly traded companies, enormous brands that are all effectively competing for one asset. And, you want to be the winner, right? And at that point, it's kind of like, it's worth whatever it's going to take to get it when they've got the money to do it. And because if they don't, that's a handicap for them now.
Look, I also think sometimes it helps, I gave them a clear path to getting it without putting them in a threatened position that it was going to turn into a bidding war, play them off someone else. And, they took advantage of that, which was good. And we were both aboard on that. So Andy and I,
that's good. Well, no, and credit to you. I mean, look, obviously you need a seller who's, willing to make it happen. But, you've got amazing connections. I mean, it's one of the things that, being in the space and just in the business world, as long as you have, and the people that it's not like, that doesn't necessarily happen from a cold email, right? So it's,
no question.
And that's the value you bring. So no, all good. Well, hey man, big win. I think a success on all levels. So with that, I think we probably, kind of at the end of this new segment 1 grand opening. With that, we'll jump really quick to a quick advertising message, which just might happen to be a media options ad. I don't know. We'll see which one they throw in. And then when we're done with that, we're going to come back here and move on to segment 2, which is the domain game. Let's talk about some names the Sherpas recently bought and sold, and see who's got their guessing game right. Josh has been kind of on fire, so let's see if he keeps the streak alive. So with that, we'll see y'all back here in 2 minutes on DomainSherpa, where all roads lead to domains.
Get money.
Media Options is the industry's leading domain broker specializing in domain acquisitions, high-value domain sales, and domain name consultation. as pioneers and thought leaders on the subject of the domain aftermarket and domain name value. Plus, through their clear domain acquisition service, Media Options offers startups and established corporations an unparalleled scope of high-value domain options, providing access to domain names and curation technologies not available elsewhere. Media Options believes in the power of a great domain name and is dedicated to helping you obtain yours. Call or email today to put a domain to work for you.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. We are on to the new segment 2, which is the domain game. And this is where the Sherpas will share details of a purchase or a sale they've made recently. They'll name the domain. The other Sherpas will guess the price, and we'll keep score. And the winner will get themselves some Media Options, the Domain Sherpa swag. Speaking of off the market forever, we got this off the market forever hoodie. We've got some stuff that's got DJ Mo Money, which is the space guy that's up on our website. So, you know, and we'll actually have our Shopify site. I mentioned this on the show that's published today, which will be, you know, a week from when y'all are seeing it, but not y'all on the show, but everybody else. So we're gonna have our Shopify site, which is gonna go live, which will have some of our swag, so which we're pretty excited about. So that'll be what we're gonna be, and I'm already running behind now. I've got like 5 hoodies I think I got to give out based on the results of the game. I think Josh is due like a whole. He's gonna be decked out, you know what I mean? He's gonna be rocking like all this Mo Money stuff, you know. But off the market forever is one of the hoodies. So with that, let's go ahead. I think I got Josh, you going first. So then we'll start with you, and then kind of we'll circle that way. So what do you got? You got a buy or a sell?
Jeez, man. Let me see. Honestly.
Well, you're on that often, man. You're like, I'm running out of like, you know, you're like, I'll tell you about an NFT that I just bought.
Yeah, I'm not even a domain investor anymore. What is going on? Okay. All right, let's do. All right, I'll do a three word that just sold.
All right.
thecooldown.com.
Ooh, thecooldown.com. All right, I like it. All right, so we'll go in order, and then we kind of keep it that way. So Miller, you go first with the guest, then Ammar, then me, and then Miller, you'll go next, and then Ammar, and then that way we keep it consistent. So, because now we've gotten to the point where everyone's trying to game it, right? So someone will name a number, and then they do the Price is Right style. They'll do like $1 below, $1 above, you know, which is fine. Hey, look, man, you know,
Hey,
we're in it
to win it, JT.
My feeling is you should have to be below.
All right, so was this a buy or a sell, Josh?
That was a sale.
All right, so you sold it. All right, cool. Miller, what do you got?
2,600.
2,600. All right, Ammar, what do you got? Oh, yeah. Oh, you talking, man? Are you on mute, maybe?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm gonna say 9,900.
9,900. All right, so I'm gonna kind of split the baby here, just because my guess from the get-go is gonna be 5,000. So I could try to do like 98, 99, and capture like that, but I think 5,000 sounds about right. It's a sale. I think you bought it relatively cheap, probably for, you know, a couple $100 maybe, and I think you sold it for a good. I'm gonna say 4,000. I'm gonna say 4,000 now that I've talked myself through it a little bit. All right, Josh, talk to us. What's up?
$3,000.
How much?
3,000. Miller.
3,000.
3,000.
There we go.
With the point.
Finally, I finally got a point in one of these things.
Yeah. That was I think it was a $10 back order from last year.
That's awesome. So effectively taking, you know, $10, $20 domain purchase and turning it into a $3,000 sale within 12, 15 months.
Yeah, nine months, I think. 10 months. No, 11 months.
Domaining is hard, man. Domaining is hard. It's hard when you know what you're doing. And but that's one of the key things, and this goes back to the same thing. Like, Josh, your success, I think, is you know, your name comes up a lot when we talk about people who have come kind of newer to the space, but you know, you've got a really good feel of the domain space. You dig into the data. you know where to go get domains. You know what I mean? It's like, those are all key things. It takes time. That shit does not happen overnight, not by, I mean,
Takes time.
so,
I didn't miss a single day on the drops last year, and like it takes time to go through all the drops to find those type of names.
Yeah.
Names like the cooldown.com, I mean, they're the kind of names that you can get on the drops every day still for, under $60.
Yeah.
And it just the thing is, it just takes time because you got to sit through 10,000 plus names.
Takes time, man. You gotta sit in that chair. You gotta sit in that chair and just do the work. You gotta do the work. So
that's right.
All right, well,
I haven't been doing that this year. I need to start doing that again.
well, you've been breeding your NFT horses, man, and they've been running their races. That's that's not that's time consuming. All right, so with that, all right, cool. Let's go, Miller. What you got, man? You got to buy, you sell, walk.
Well, I've been
universal.com.
it's been like the year of the many sales, so I'm been lighter on the buy side.
That's all right.
Lighter on the buy side than I normally would be, although always trying to keep my eyes open. I hope I didn't. It's possible that I talked about this on a different Sherpa, but I don't think so, and it's certainly not with these guys. So I bought and sold studentwellness.com.
Okay, cool.
I want to give a fair hint that I sold it to a very close friend who is a 3-time mega successful exit entrepreneur who is onto his 4th company in that space, and I did not look to really profit from it much, so I bought it and kind of sold it to him, basically for a dinner. But
totally get it. So
the buy price and the sell price are going to be relatively the same.
Okay, well, that's fair. All right, so which one do you want to go with officially? So you want to call it the buy price?
Doesn't matter. You sure?
I mean, if it's literally the same number, then fine. All right, cool. So we're going to go with the number. So Ammar, studentwellness.com.
Yeah, I was in that auction. That was a good name.
So you were?
You should know. You should know then what it went for.
You ruined my golf game that day, Ammar.
Well, I don't think I'm the one that I don't know how I didn't look back to see how much it went for, but
I was on the eighth hole and like playing with my dad, and it's like, oh my god, they're still going. It kept getting extended by 5 minutes.
No, that's a great name. That's why I was looking at it. I seriously don't remember what it went for, but I'm gonna, based on what you said, I'm gonna go lower than I would normally, what I think it's worth. And so I'm gonna say again, 9,900, because I think Josh undersold his name, by the way, but that's a different conversation.
We
yeah,
could have talked about that. You know what I mean?
Well,
let's go. I'll take the heat. Let's go. I mean, I will. I think it's a good topic. Actually, we should talk about it real quick because I undersell names all the time. That's my thing. That's why I make good money.
Let's do this. Let's finish the student wellness, and then before Ammar goes off on his name, let's talk about the cooldown, because if you had feedback there, because I actually thought that was a pretty good sale price. So I think that's great feedback if you feel that maybe he undersold it. So let's talk about it. But now, so you said 99. I'm gonna say 10,000.
Right. I think I was on the show when Andrew talked about it last time, so I think I'm going to win this one and say $3,000.
You weren't on the show.
I was on the show.
You sure? Okay. So apologize for the repeat, damn it. I don't think.
No, it's
anyway.
all. Hey, man, it's all good. I don't remember.
So
I was on the show.
Well,
sure.
if Ammar is beating Josh up for underselling the cooldown, I'm really going to get beat up for this one. I bought it and sold it for $1,750.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I mean that's why I was saying, like, that's a great name. That's
in a hot space coming out of COVID.
Easy 5-figure name. Easy 5-figure.
Well, the guy, my friend who bought it, they've just raised a ton of venture money, and I mean, again, he's sold 2 companies for 9 figures, and but with that said, I believe I could have sold it for 25 to 30,000.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said 10,000. I mean, I thought that was a $10,000 buy that should have been a $30,000 sale. So And again, but shows you how good my memory is. If I was actually on the show last time, I talked about it too, and like, oh, you can tell me that name
I'm going to be
twice.
sending my guy Michael this episode. Let him know how good a deal he got. He give me
Oh,
some
let him
stock.
know, man. Without question, man. Oh, he should have. That should have been the deal from the get-go, even if it was just
Yeah.
like a couple of points. But all right, cool. So then that means that Josh gets the point. So now we've got Miller with a point, Josh with a point. So basically what's going to happen here probably is Ammar is going to, and if one of you guys gets the point, then you guys basically will win. So before Ammar gets started though, so let's talk about the cool down. So you think the cool down undersold at $3,000?
Well, so first of all, in my opinion, it's a 2-word, not 3-word. Cool down's 1 word.
Okay.
The way it's used in in
I agree with
fitness, right? In training and fitness.
Yeah. I agree.
And then when I typed in cool down or the cool down, Peloton was all over it. So I don't know if that's who bought it, but
That's a good point.
So I
was
We
going to say
can throw salt
I
in the
was-
wound and tell you that I have an awesome relationship and have sold multiple domains to Peloton.
Well, you can sell them yourpeloton.com then. I've got that one as well. So we can make up that. But I agree with Ammar, by the way. I think that, so I undersell names all the time because I use buy it now pricing on large majority of my names. And if I'm like last year, for example, I was probably adding 20, 30 names a day to the portfolio. And when you're adding 20, 30 names a day, I just don't have time to Google them.
You can't price them. Yeah.
You can't price them all. So it's more price based on my acquisition cost. So if I pay, X amount, it falls into X category and it goes into the under $3,000 category, which means that I end up underselling names all the time. And Ammar's completely right. If you type in the cooldown, and then cooldown was 1 word, the first thing that comes up is Peloton. And it's cooldown.onepeloton.com. So like the buyer could very well be Peloton. I would say that there's actually like a 50-50 shot that it probably is. So
but I'll also say that those kind of names, those kind of brandables, I think, so I totally understand what you're saying. And I have the same issue, right? When you're adding a lot of names, you can't really go and do the right homework to price it properly. So, what I do is I just overprice everything on the bins, on the ones that I don't don't have time, right? And if I want to put a bin price, which I think is the right strategy for a lot of the names, so I would have priced that one higher, right, to begin with, and then, but it's just a different kind of strategy.
You're a gym rat. You knew this stuff.
Yeah, but you also lose. Yeah, but you also lose. But then to Josh's point, you'd lose a lot of sales when you overprice stuff on the bins, right? So, sometimes it's nice to wake up to, we just secured funds for, thecooldown.com, and and he made an amazing return on it. If he paid $10 or $20, there's nothing wrong.
300% return, at the end of the day.
I think it depends on circumstance as well, because I would happily at some point probably switch my strategy and just say I'm not putting a buy it now price on any of my names below like 10 grand. But the thing is like there's for me it's circumstantial as well, because right now I'd like to get 15K or whatever per month in just like buy it now pricing names that I know are going to come through. And if I did that, I would lose that, and that wouldn't be good.
Right. Right. And then you couldn't buy all the horses that you're buying.
Yeah, exactly. And then my stable would go to shit.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, but we also have different perspectives, right? Like I said, I tend to overprice is not the right word, but I tend to ask more for my names than maybe a lot of people, a lot of other investors would, right?
Yeah.
But it's just different strategies, and I definitely have a lower sell-through rate than Josh does, right?
Yeah.
And so
but that's a business decision,
It's right. Yeah,
and then that's absolutely right. No, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So, and I think
and Andrew did a really nice thing. He did a favor for his friend, right? So the name he sold is far better than the cool down. I don't want to say far better, but I think far more potentially valuable, right? It's got, you can build a whole business around it. The cool down, you don't really build a business around. It's just an awesome brand. And
yeah,
I mean,
since COVID, student wellness is a pretty big thing across college campuses. Having a kid,
but I mean, even without COVID, it's an important thing, right? Like,
of course.
students need, anything targeted at students is just a great business, and which is kind of a perfect segue into the name that I'm going to potentially talk about. But so I think that, but I don't think it counts to say you sold it for $17.50, because you sold it basically, it was really an acquisition for a friend, and you gave it to him at wholesale, right? You gave it to him at what you bought it for.
Well, except I bought it, but I didn't. Unlike, say, White Elephant, which I was in cahoots with my friend, I said, hey, should we buy this? I mean, I wasn't going to spend that kind of money unless he wanted it, and they wanted it.
You just need to tell me before you bid on anything, because I'm bidding you up on all of these names.
I can't wait till we get to this name jet list. I have a feeling we're going to come out of the same exact spot.
Well, all right. Well, with that, so we'll keep it moving. So, Ammar, what is the name that you are going to put out here?
So there's two. I first, the one I want to ask, I don't know. Josh probably knows the name, or probably knows the price. So I'd be giving him the win for sure. Josh,
but Josh knows all the names and all the prices. We already know this.
Right. Do you know what academic.com sold for?
Ballpark. Yeah. I was in that auction, so
okay.
Yes.
So you were bidding me up, but so we'll talk about a different one.
It got a lot higher than I wanted to.
So,
but I think it's okay if Josh knows about it. I mean,
I don't know where it finished. But I know that I would get pretty close.
We'll go with academic, and then you have to give me the hoodie, though. That's the deal, because I want a damn hoodie.
All right. All right. I got to send you one anyway, because as a guest on the show, we got to send out some additional swag too. So we'll make all that happen.
But I want Josh's hoodie.
Yeah. It's like it'll say Josh on it. Like in the script,
I'll get you a custom hoodie.
All right, so the academic. So you bought academic.com, and I think that's a great name. And I think it'll look good in the header for the show too. So let's go with that for sure.
And that's a perfect segue with education, right? Student wellness.
Love it. Student wellness, right? Into academic.com. This is good. So, all right. So I'll go first, and I'll say that you spent $15,000 on it. 15,000 will be my guess. Knowing zero, I was not in the auction. I wasn't. I privy to zero information. So I'm going to say 15 G's.
Josh,
I'm waiting for you.
No, technically you're next, because we go in.
Yeah, but Josh knows the answer.
Yeah, but this will give Miller.
Miller's like, now I'm gonna win. Okay, all right. 55K.
Oh wow.
Okay, and I am going to go with $55,001.
Then I think you win. All right. So,
I'm going to give a different guess. I mean, let me give it. I was going to say.
No, you won. 50, because I think it was like 65 or something. But
I was going to say 62,500 before you said it, just so we can back up. My answer on my own was going to be 62,500.
I lost. I concede.
Oh man,
I'm way off on this. Well, I'm way under. So what? It sounds like
I way overpaid then, but I don't think so. It was 91,200.
Oh wow!
I don't think you overpaid.
I mean, look, it's a fantastic domain. I think that's what platform was it?
On GoDaddy.
It was a public auction,
and it was from the original registrant, I believe.
Okay.
Right. It wasn't an expiry. I actually think if it was expiry, it would have gone higher.
So question for you, Ammar.
Yeah.
Where was Braden?
He might have been in the auction. I don't know.
Well, so Miller, congratulations for the win, by the way. Boom. So you get yourself some swag. So it sold on GoDaddy. So it was an expiring from the original registrant.
No, not expiring.
It wasn't expiring. It was listed publicly.
Yeah.
Oh, so do you think so? Is it the original registrant that sold it?
Yep. Well, they've had it forever. I think I didn't even go back to look, but I think it was an end user that sold it.
And how long ago was this? Was this like in the last like 2 weeks or 3 weeks?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I've
Last
been
couple
out
of
of
weeks.
pocket, man. I'm on the road. I'm like homeless. I got no house. The
Yeah.
last show I did from the hotel in Jacksonville that we're currently staying in, wow, because I completely missed this one, and then completely swung way under. But yeah, I mean, at $91,000, I mean, it's a fantastic domain. I mean, this one is a oneword.com and like can be used for.
It,
I mean,
I
talk
mean,
about
at
yeah. So talk about your
oneword.com,
motivation.
Double
yeah,
meaning. Double meaning.
right. It has multiple meanings, but obviously, I think the most, obviously valuable use is for the education vertical, which, you know, right now maybe he's taking a hit, but I actually think the end user for academic might be something really opportune to help retrain people right into new careers, or I don't know. I think all day long that's a seven-figure name. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I think ultimately your end user sale of that name. I mean, at least I think that's a $300,000 to $500,000 name, easy.
Yeah.
But I think you
And
need
that's what I was
seven
going to
figures
say.
for
You
it
know
so
what?
far.
Yeah, I think most people would probably say it's a 250 to 500 name, but I think
As the
I
floor.
wouldn't sell it for that.
Yeah.
And
Well, you
hence
wouldn't.
why,
You would definitely not sell it for that. Like,
yeah,
I'm not.
right. But it's probably safe to say I could probably pick up the phone and call a few people and say, hey, I need cash. Give me 100K. Like, I don't think I'm going
Oh,
to get
I
hurt
think
on
you
it.
could probably pick up the phone and get 250. So I mean, you have a
Right.
3x built in, and not. Hey, did you? Can we ask now that we're here? I mean, how high would you have gone, Ammar?
Not much higher. I mean, at the end of the day, I think when I bid in auctions, I'm very undisciplined. So I think I went into it saying 75 to 100 would be the range where I thought it was going to go. And I said, so I'll go up to 100. And then it was getting close. And I'm like, would I go higher? And I, probably would have. But at some point, like,
Yeah.
you got to leave some room for upside. And while I think it's a seven-figure name pretty confidently, I believe that, but how long does it take to get that seven-figure offer? Do you ever get it? But I felt very comfortable that it's easily wholesale, a low six-figure name.
Yeah, if I were participating, I think I would have gone the one. Personally, I could see going to 125. That's kind of my mental.
Yeah.
So you did well.
Yeah. So I think it's high, obviously way higher than all three of you thought, but I'm not, sometimes you got to step up and pay a little more.
Yeah, I was definitely. I said 15. I meant to say 50. Just at least put me in the bucket with these guys. But yeah, no, hey man, and look, and it's a fantastic domain. I mean, it's one of those like might be. Do you think it's your best name now, or what do you?
No, definitely not. But it is. I think it's one, maybe it's up there. It's like it's a great name in my opinion.
Yep.
Right? Like,
I mean, fantastic.
so this isn't actually, if we have time, because we are actually running behind, but Elliot was bidding against me on it.
Right.
I don't know if he was the second highest bidder, but I remember he posted something that he was bidding. He said he missed out on academic, but he got scholarly. And I was asking myself, and I was going to actually put out a Twitter poll on this. I don't think they're in the same category.
No. I mean,
I think scholar would be
scholar and academic, because like you said, this goes to what Miller was saying before. Academic, you've got the noun, academic, and then what's the other?
the adjective.
My English teacher is going to be like,
it would be well, no. Well, no. It's actually there. It's multiple meanings. It's the noun that somebody's an academic.
Yep.
It's the adjective that something relating to education or academia, and the adjective, which is a kind of a negative connotation, but that's just academic, which is like it's kind of like plain to see, right? Or very basic. But
you see,
it can also
it's negative.
Yeah,
it could be.
I would agree. I would agree though, but I mean, yes, it could be used in sort of that kind of context, but I think even that use of the word is still not negative. The idea that something is academic being, basic or whatever is not necessarily bad. So
You froze up for a sec, JT.
oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying I don't think that even that as the quote unquote negative connotation is that negative. So
Right. So there's three potentially, different connotations, and
I would agree
but I
with
think
you. Scholar, similarly, sort of same league, but I think academic, I'd still place it higher. Scholarly, and to me, I mean,
yeah,
I think you're
it's a
you're
great name, but it's not I don't think it's in the same category.
Yeah, no, agreed. So no, so all good, man. Well, great acquisition. It'll be interesting and exciting to see what you do with it and how it goes. So with that, let's keep it moving because as you mentioned, we're a little bit behind on time as we keep it going. We'll go
Yep.
ahead now, take a break, and then we will come back with segment 3 where we get into the NameJet list and we will talk about some names coming up for auction on NameJet. We'll see you guys back here in a minute on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains.
FD was built by domain investors to increase your inquiries, sales, and profit. Forget spreadsheets and archived emails. Manage your entire investment portfolio in one place using a secure and completely confidential platform. Learn more at FT.com. That's EFTY, FT.com.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Domain Sherpa. We are now on to the new segment 3, which is the NameJet list, where we talk about some names coming up for auction on NameJet. We've got a list of 12 domains. We also have the list on the site, so you can download or go into Google Docs, pull the Excel sheet. You can see the list of the domains. You can see what the Estabat is. You can see the amount of bidders as of the time of taping. You could also see the amount of days left until the end of pre-release as of the time of the airing of the show. Keep in mind that these are all expiring domains, which means they're going to go into private auction. So if you want to participate in the auctions for any of these domains, you got to get a back order in before that end of the pre-release period. So, and a few of these have 5-6 days left from the time that this show airs. So by the time you watch it, you may need to get your hustle on to make sure you get your back orders in so you don't miss out. So with that, let's go ahead and I think according to the sheet for the show, Ammar, you're going first. Why don't you talk about a name that you like, anything that you don't?
Sure.
What do you think is interesting? What do you think?
It's not a great list in my opinion, but there's some good names on here. I think so. The names I like Appreciate. I like Cuckoo. I like those are the two that I think I like the best.
Okay, and that's
Florida
appreciate.org for everybody.
.org. Yeah, sorry, appreciate.org and Cuckoo. Even though Cuckoo, the problem is, that's one that is actually spelled differently than like what people think of cuckoo clock, right? But
right.
I think it's super brandable. I think a lot of these are just brandables, right? They're good. These are the kind of names where just like that, if Josh had picked that one up, and I'm assuming that's going to go for probably mid 3 figures, mid to high 3 figures. I don't know what it will go for, but that's a name, right? Like I could see I'd probably price that one at like $5K, right, on a buy now. 4,900, 3-word, .com. But the one I would stay away from is Jacuzzi, even though it's spelled differently. First of all, it's a misspell, number one, and number two, I'm pretty sure if I recall correctly, Jacuzzi is a trademark. So the right spelling. So I would tell people not to bid on that one.
Jacuzzi is a brand.
Yeah,
it's like Band-Aid. It's like Band-Aid.
Right. So it would be trademarked, right? So
absolutely.
So you'd have a problem with that. The one I would probably pay the most on this list is probably appreciate.org. But I think Posh Homes has potential. Funky Socks is kind of cool. Like I said, Florida Foreclosures is the one everybody's going to look at, but I don't know. I have a bunch of foreclosure names and they don't get any interest. I have like better foreclosure names than that.
Yeah, that's an interesting point because the Florida foreclosures, and for what it's worth, we had to do a list last week. So, there's only so many names on the NameJet platform that really pop, right?
Yeah.
And but with that said, I mean, a lot of these, if you look just based on Estabat being what it is, these are $1,000 appraisals. But I would agree. I mean, I think it's interesting. You got a lot of names on this list, and I thought the same thing as we were compiling it. That it is a lot of brandable kind of stuff, especially that jacuzzi domain, Cuckoo, which is COOCOO.com, and stuff like that. The Florida foreclosures, I think, is interesting. It's got an appraisal of almost $50,000. Not a lot of back orders though, as it's coming into the last few days, or will be coming. Is a little further out or further along than some of these. But as somebody who has a lot of foreclosure domains, so you don't see a lot of activity on those. You don't see a lot of offers. Those are like pretty.
No, I have,
pretty
like I said,
quiet.
I have better foreclosure names and debt names and this and that. They don't do great. Now, Florida foreclosures would probably be a great build out, right? And maybe for lead gen or who knows what. But as far as just resale value, people are going to say, oh, that probably has the highest, CPC or whatever. But just from my experience, those names don't seem to sell for a lot.
Okay. So, all right. Well, no, I think that's good. And I think the jacuzzi thing is interesting as well, because I think when you look at that name, I think jacuzzi it's JAKUZI, right? So I think you're right.
Yeah.
It absolutely has to be a brandable name. It can't be used for jacuzzi like tubs, because in that event, I mean, that's a cyber squatting,
Right.
like
Exactly.
issue, waiting. That's a UDRP waiting to happen. So,
but jacuzzi's a made up word. So I think you'd have a tough time. Defending that, right? Now, if it wasn't a trademark, I would say then that's it's a good brandable, pronounceable, all this and that, but I don't think you could defend that because jacuzzi is a made up word, I think, right?
Yeah,
so I don't know if you're going to use jacuzzi and do, I don't know, a clothing line or a beer koozie, or for a guy named Jack. I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting. Like, or like it could be a bike. I could see it like it could be like a street bike jacuzzi, and I don't know. Just saying.
Yeah. So
All right.
I would advise people to probably be careful with that one, right?
Yeah, I think that's all good. That's good feedback and good advice. All right, Miller, what about you, man? What do you think based on the lists?
So I'm going to keep this tight. I mean, I think appreciate.org is a phenomenal domain name. I will be at the auction for it.
All right.
I think it's a incredible name for multiple, even for 501c3s in the right space. And I mean, I'm not going to chase it. I'm not going to, I'm not an end user. But I think it's close to encapsulate. That's what I'm looking for. It's close to being the keyword that that is the whole focal point of donating to charity, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Is appreciation.
Appreciation, being grateful, that kind of thing. And I think you're absolutely right. I think if there's there's no question that there is a play around that, for that. There's also the idea of appreciate, like the appreciation of assets, right?
Of assets,
yeah.
Yeah.
So not as a .org as much in my book there. That the .org kind of removes the appreciation of assets a little bit in my eyes, but look, I just think it's a phenomenal address for the right 501c3 or .org, literally. So I'll be intrigued to see what happens with it. And then I mean, the only other one, I mean, Return It amuses me a little bit. I could see.
Here he is.
Hey, sorry about that, guys.
All right, he's back.
Yeah,
you're so sick of me on the show, huh? You're like, oh God, this guy again.
All right, so Miller, where we got cut off, as far as I can tell, and hopefully
I was done. We were moving on to Josh.
Yeah, you said Return It amuses you. That's where the recording got shut off.
Yeah.
So just go ahead and just finish your thought on the say. That amuses me. Why?
I don't know. I don't see myself bidding on it, but I think it's something about it that could be applicable and catchy, and look, e-commerce is a big space and, massive category, and certainly now. And I think it's, I don't know, it just jumped out at me. The only other one that really jumped out at me along with appreciate.
Okay, I get it. All right, what about you, Josh? What do you think?
So the only one that I would have interest in is justlikeThat.com, and I would
The one I said.
yeah, and I would only
You
have
said that one,
interest.
Josh, there.
I would only have interest under $1,500,
Okay.
and I would price it in somewhere in the 15K range.
Oh wow, you would price that higher than the cool down.
Yeah,
I agree with
like that.
I agree with
like
you.
that.
I like that now too. I'm adding a third. I can add a third.
So
It's
nobody
very
likes,
close to just do it,
yeah,
Yeah,
well, just
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. I think that's kind of sort of where I'm at. I think, that name has some of that colloquialism sort of, usability, if you will. But nobody likes iam.net or stes.com, like stes.com as a 4-character pronounceable type of domain.
Yeah.
iam.net is great, but it's .net, right? And again, I have some, I think the world's best .nets, and I don't think I've ever sold one.
Okay.
That's not true. I have sold .nets, but nothing of consequence, right? So
Okay.
it all depends on how much you're going to pay for it and how much you're going to price it at. But
Okay.
I think I love that name. It definitely jumped out at me, but I just know from experience, my personal experience, I don't think there's a huge upside there, but that's one I would buy. And if I was going to be an end user, I think that's a good name.
Yeah. I mean, I think
Braden should buy iam.net. He should just buy it and point it to his LinkedIn.
pointed to himself. He is .net. And then I think besides that, you've got funkysocks.com, which I think is kind of cool if you're going to have a little e-commerce store selling like custom.
I tried that. It's tough.
Okay.
Selling socks is so competitive, man. I tried it. Funky socks. I
really
literally
well.
tried exactly that.
Oh, that's really wild.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. All right. See, but that's also another good piece of advice, right? So for folks that are trying to figure out how to sell or what they want to do, we talk about it a lot. There are these, the differentiation between being a developer and trying to develop the domains that you buy, or, being a domain investor and really just trying to, and then, but having some sense of, what it's like on the development side of trying to run a particular type of e-commerce store or outfit, knowing where some of those challenges are. That's good insight because it's going to
I mean, people say develop your names. I want to develop my names, trust me, but every time I do, I flush money down the toilet.
Well, I'll tell you, Drew is, so when you talk about, Rosner, like, with our business, we do not develop domains almost ever, and we've got an enormous portfolio and opportunities all the time around that. And I've, been like, hey, we should do this. We should do, NFTs and different, all sorts of stuff. And he's just like, that's not where, it's a distraction. And unless we've got, the right other people involved or, investment and everything else, it's like, it's all fine and good if it's like a side hustle. But if we're trying to really drive a real business that way, without the type of focus and the contacts and network and again, investment and time that you need to really make that successful, as a little side project, it's all good. But otherwise, you're wasting time, especially with what we do where, and this is Josh to your, what you do and everybody else on this in this Zoom, on this show is that we sell domains. We, that's our thing. We buy, sell, we broker domains, and that's where our skills are. And so yeah.
And look, I've had both sides, right? I've had very, very good success historically developing some domains, creditcards.com, obviously,
Sure.
insurancequotes.com, even more so. I mean, real serious success. And I've also had some, ones where I'm like, if we just had not developed it, what a win it would have been, right?
Yeah.
And by developing it, it became, a win became a loss. And so I kind of come around to the fact that it's hard, with or without a domain, it's hard to build a startup website or a startup company, right? 99% fail. And when you have this valuable piece of land, if you're not you're much better, and I think, much better marrying it, whether it's an end user like Universal or someone who's developing something that they, behind the scenes called Universal Crypto, right? I mean, you're much better aligning with a team that's focused on that. That's what they're already doing. They have a business plan, they have funding, they have amplification. They're already going down that path and rolling the dice and trying to incubate from an idea because you have the domain name. right?
Yeah.
Because I have this domain name, I'm going to develop it and incubate an idea. Been there, done that, and despite some wins,
Yeah, of
okay,
course. Yeah, you've had some big ones.
I would say I agree with Drew that you're better to find the dedicated, focused company, team, or whatever already doing it.
Yeah, no, and I think that's fair. They have to have the passion for it, right? And already have some of those pieces in place. So I think that's a
Josh
great
doesn't
point.
even wear socks. That was the problem. He doesn't
Yeah,
like
exactly.
socks.
He doesn't even know what socks are. He lives in Florida. He went from California to Florida. You know what I mean? He's wearing soccer slides all the time, man. He doesn't wear any socks.
So true.
All right. Well, I think that's all good, and I think that's good feedback on the list. So there's some stuff there that's kind of interesting, but some things to be careful about. And ultimately, it'll come down to what the price of the acquisitions are, right? I mean, I think all these names, are probably worth taking a look at the right price, but knowing how these auctions go, I think, the word of caution to the investors out there to say, to be careful about overpaying for a lot of these domains, because as far as you guys are seeing it, there's some issues and limitations here. So I think it's all good.
Do we have a little time to talk about a sale that happened yesterday?
Sure. Yeah. Well, with that, so we're moving out of segment 3. We're moving on to segment 4. This is the closing of the show, grand closing, where we kind of wrap up with anything that we haven't already covered and wanted to talk about. We got about 5 more minutes, and then we're going to shut down for the day. So with that, I think it's a perfect segue into the grand closing piece of the show. So with that, Josh, go ahead. What do you got?
JT wants a butterbeer.
Yeah, exactly. I can't drink butterbeer. So real quick, I want to give you my rant before, because I'm here at Universal Studios. We bring the kids here all the time. In fact, they got me the hat. Boom, Super Dad. What's up with the Avengers symbol in the middle? I may have paid for it. I told them, hey, you're giving me this. I earned it. I'm just kidding. But so we're all about it. Butterbeer is great, but it's so sugary, man. It's syrupy that it literally.
What is butterbeer?
It's like a cold.
I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, so it's butterscotch, and they put this layer of cream on it. So it's like a butterscotch smoothie that they put this layer of cream, like thicker than whipped cream on the top. And I mean, it tastes great. It's cold, and it's on a hot day. You're like, this is awesome. But it's so thick and syrupy that it just literally makes me almost sick afterwards. You know what I mean?
So it's not actually beer.
No.
It's a drink from Harry Potter, right?
Yeah, it's a Harry Potter thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the big. Sorry, I already assumed that you were in the loop on that part of it. And you're right about Miller, man. You're right about the Harry Potter ride. That one is the Forbidden Journey is a sneaky you get crazy nauseous because there's a movement, and then there's also the screens part of it. The ride when it first came out, I mean, it's incredible, but it is one of those things that you got to be careful, man. That's just, we rode the new Jurassic Park roller coaster though, which is awesome. The new Harry Potter Hagrid roller coaster, which is awesome. And so my rant that I was going to go on before, and I'll keep it short because I know we're running short on time. But being here in July, we only came here because we had some friends who were going to be here. Plus, we are currently without a house, so we're like, all right, well, if we're sort of traveling, but we needed to stay relatively close. My kids have basketball and stuff like that. So we're like, all right, we'll go hit Universal for a few days while we're doing that. But it is so hot and it is so crowded. And it's so there's all these lines. And even though we've got the express passes and all that good stuff, it's still an ordeal, So you go through this whole process of fighting to get these few moments of exhilaration, right, on the coasters and stuff. And it's all good if you're family and everybody's vibing and it's all these memories. But we come here enough that it's we don't have to necessarily come here at the moment. And COVID is not a thing here at the moment, right? So I think you've got so many people that are just so sick of being cooped up. Everybody wants to be here. And then at the same time, I think you've got the parks, which furloughed people and everything else. So I think they're also trying to ramp up to get used to having this many people back in the mix again, So it's it's almost the perfect storm of a frustrating, challenging, quote unquote vacation. I'd much rather just be on a fucking beach, with a drink in hand, just chilling, letting the kids play in the ocean and just
with a real beer. Not a butterbeer.
Exactly, a real beer. You're right. Anyway, but with that, hey, shout out to Universal, man, and it was obviously a great tie-in to the big sale that Andrew was involved with. So anyway, so that was my rant. I just needed to get that out. I'm glad I did. Thank you guys for entertaining me with that. Now, Josh, what sale did you want to mention?
Yeah, no, just so medjobs.com sold yesterday for 20 grand on Namejet.
Oh wow!
And it went a lot higher than what I thought it would go.
Sure.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Just 20 grand for medjobs.com. And I feel that's the kind of name now that people just overvalue based on what has been said in the world for the last year. It's like, oh, I've heard a lot about medical stuff, and I've heard a lot about jobs, med jobs. This must be a monster,
Yeah. Well,
I just don't see it. I don't see that. I don't see how an investor gets the right ROI there. And this is every day, right? So I'm just looking at the top sales of the day, and every day I see these outliers, and I'm just wondering, when this is going to stop.
Was it a investor buyer?
I'm not sure. That's the thing. I think that there's a lot of end users in these auctions, but it takes two to tangle. Yeah, and so there's multiple people that like that name at 20 grand.
Yeah, which is surprising to me. I would agree. And I think, this goes back to something we talk about on the show a lot, because, when you do get into the situation where people are starting to bid kind of based just sort of on the gut feeling of what they think about a domain name without doing the research, that creates a real challenge for them later on, because like you said, what's the return on investment? That's a name that they very well may end up selling at a loss down the road, when they have to get liquid again, because, they overspent on it on the auction, right? One of the things that all the folks here on this, show do well, is do the research to know, what are the prospects out there, right? How many searches are being done on these terms? How many companies are using these domain names? Like, a sense going in of like, okay, I'm targeting this name at this price because I think legitimately the metrics, the data support actually purchasing a name at that price, because there are prospects to sell it at a reasonable return on investment within some time frame down the road, right? And and I would agree with you that I think a name like medjobs.com at 20K, that comes up here. I mean, to me, I would say $500, and now granted, things are
the issue is, and this is what people, I think this is going to be pretty good advice, right? And if you don't mind me saying so myself, the issue is that people so often shorten medical for med, that when people see med jobs, they think medical jobs. And those names have very, very different values, because med jobs is a brand and medical jobs is an exact match with, thousands and thousands of monthly searches. So at that point, if you paid, that kind of money for medical jobs, you're paying for that because of the monthly search volume and the CPC. But med jobs, although it feels like the same kind of name, it's not the same kind of name, and the value is not there for the same reasons. And I think that's why people get caught up, because MedJobs is a brand, and medicaljobs.com isn't.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Right. I would want to own both of those if I was going to be an end user. I'd want to own them both, because I like the sound of MedJobs, but I agree with you. With what people might be searching for is more likely. Much more likely medical jobs, not med jobs. But I like the sound of med jobs. I think it has a nice ring to it, but not for 20K.
Yeah, I think that's all good points. So good stuff, man. I think in good advice, again, we say it, this comes up all the time on the show. It's like, you got to do your research. You got to let the data drive your decisions, and, you've got to be kind of cautious as you're making those big, but I don't know who the buyer is, right? For the buyer, maybe they have medicaljobs.com, and but like you said, it also takes someone else who feels that there's that value at that level, but we also see a constant appreciation of domain names, especially in the aftermarket. I think as more and more folks, are sort of coming into the space, or, have some money, and, domains are looked at, I think in a very positive light in conjunction with a lot of other digital assets now as much as ever, and the value of domains is being recognized by a lot of people. I mean, people are willing to spend, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on NFTs and horses and bored apes. And by the way, shout out to the Zootang clan, which is my bored apes and a couple of our other bored apes. They're in the lab right now working on a new track called
I need to get an ape so I can join your group.
Dude, you're in, man. You're in. You're part of the Zootang forever. We're working on a track right now called Ape Shit. Like it's gonna be dope. All the we got the apes, they're all gonna be rapping, and it's coming together. It's gonna be pretty cool. So we're having a lot of fun doing that. And and
if anybody knows of any good cool apes for sale, let me know at a reasonable price.
Josh,
I'd like to get one.
Josh,
there are no reasonable prices anymore.
No, that's the thing. The floor is almost at four ETH now. I mean, and it's crazy because it's there's only so many apes now that are in that range.
I loaded up on the Untamed Elephant, which struggled a little bit out of the gate over July 4th, and now sold out in about a day. Out, after a couple of days of having to tweak a few things, and I'm pretty. I think they're about to go through the roof.
Yeah,
So.
the elephants are cool. I mean, look, they're cool cats. Mike Tyson bought a cool cat, and he's tweeting about them, and so did
Yeah, well, cool cats are already going through the roof. But yeah,
already so
but
random.
gutter
Like
cats,
all
not
these
cool
things.
cats. Gutter cats. Never mind.
Well, there's gutter
They're
cats,
cool
and
cats
then there's
now.
also
Yeah.
cool cats too, and you got
the untamed elephants. Untamed elephants. It's great art, and they're great cause. They're
oh yeah, that's
giving
right. They're
money
doing
to-
like the
they're
wildlife.
giving 50 grand. They just gave 50 grand to anti-poaching. Yeah, so
Yeah, no, and I love
that's
that.
cool.
I love that kind of angle. I mean, well, when Bored Ape Yacht Club gave out the dogs, they gave a bunch to no-kill shelters and things.
Yep.
But we'll save this for our NFT show that we got coming up in a
yeah,
couple of days.
exactly.
And but yeah, the Bored Ape Yacht Club is still, to me is the OG, aside from CryptoPunks. But the art that I really like, just kind of throwing this out there, is ghosts. I don't own any, but I really like these ghosts with instead of the O, it's the X. They have some really cool art with but it's also hard to own everything. You know what I mean? There's
Right.
so many, and I don't know winners, losers. That's why what I really like about how we approach the Bored Apes, or at least for me personally, is like, we're having a lot of fun with them, because it's like, spending this kind of money, it's like, you at least should have, let's have some fun, because let's see what happens. Are we gonna make money? I don't know.
Yeah, I want one, not because I want it as an investment. I just kind of want one, and that's why I haven't bought it yet, because I want to get a cool one. Like, I want one that I like.
We're gonna talk about it, man. We're gonna make something happen. So anyway, not to get off on too much of a tangent, we'll keep this episode to domains, because this was a great show with a lot of really good insight, ton of great information. I appreciate you guys, Josh, Miller, Ammar. Thank you guys so much for joining, especially because, like I said, I know we kind of had to throw this together with me on the road, but you guys were more than accommodating, and I think this is going to be a great show for the audience, as always. Speaking to the audience, thank you everybody for tuning in. I say it on every show, without you, there's no us. We appreciate you guys taking the time. Hit us up, Twitter, comments, whatever. Let us know what you think, what you like, what you don't like, feedback. We're available and down to talk about some things, and always receptive to that. And with that, we're going to go ahead and call it, because we're at time. So thank you again, guests, audience, everybody. We appreciate y'all, the good folks at Universal Studios. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's all good. And we will see everybody.
Universal.com, baby.
Universal.com, man. All right. And we'll see everybody next time here on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Peace out.
Bye.